Okay guys, I'm going to show you shortly how to make a sweet and sour pork recipe that was originally designed by former MasterChef contestant Marion Grasby and was published in Taste magazine in July 2014. But before we get on to that, I want to give you a bit of a history of immigration to Australia from China. So Chinese settlers first rushed to Victoria in large numbers, hoping to strike gold around the 1860s. So most were men contracted to agents who sponsored their voyages, and they faced years of difficult repayments. They also sent money back to their families in China. By 1861, the Chinese community was already thriving, so it made up nearly 7% of the Victorian population. And Melbourne's Little Bourke Street became a centre for Chinese cultural and business activity, which you'll find it still is today. Once the gold started to run out, many Chinese settled as market gardeners or farmhands. So this is where we would have started to see some Chinese ingredients coming into the Australian supermarkets, as we'll talk about later. So some of these Chinese settlers set up small grocery stores or fruit and vegetable hawking businesses in country towns, and others worked around Melbourne or the other capital cities in a variety of pursuits, which included import-export businesses, so they were bringing in food from China to Australia. Many Chinese religious and cultural organisations were established, and Chinese New Year celebrations became a highlight in many towns in Victoria. At the start of the 1900s, the Immigration Restriction Act restricted the entry of non-Europeans, including Chinese, into Australia, but that was protested and rescinded. And between 1986 and 1991, the Chinese-born population in Victoria more than doubled to over 20,000. This was largely due to many Chinese students seeking citizenship and asylum after the Tiananmen Square demonstrations in 1989. And in 2011, the census recorded around 94,000 Chinese-born people living in Victoria. Sweet and sour pork, here we go. So the first thing I'm doing is making a marinade for the pork. I'm adding a tablespoon of light soy sauce. Soy sauce is a really common ingredient in Chinese and pretty much all Asian cooking. It probably came out when import-exports started from China that we discussed in our earlier segment. I'm now adding a teaspoon of minced garlic. So the recipe calls for 1 clove of grated garlic, but this is often a cheaper and quicker alternative if you don't have a clove of garlic on hand. Add a little bit of pepper. And then we will get on to cutting up our pork belly. Pork belly is used in lots of different cuisines, but Chinese recipes do use pork and lots of other styles of meat to prepare their recipes. So as you can see here, I'm cubing up or dicing up in about 3 centimetre square sizes the pork belly for the marinade, which will go for about half an hour. So getting back to meats in general, so Chinese do use a lot of different meats in their cuisine. So pork is quite a popular one, but you might also find beef and chicken as well in particular. So here you go. You can see that I've mixed up the marinade a little bit. I'm adding all the pork into that marinade, and I will shortly mix that through and put that into the fridge to marinate for 30 minutes, as I said before. So marinating as a technique is used by lots of different cultures, and it's basically soaking foods in flavoured liquid to tenderise and improve the flavour. Okay, we're moving on to the next step of the process while that's marinating. So I'm going to make the sauce. So you can see that I'm adding some brown sugar. So we've got about half a cup of that's going to go in. And because it's a sweet and sour pork, the sauce needs to have a bit of those kind of flavours in it, and the sugar will certainly help with that, as will this pineapple juice that I'm about to put in. So I'm putting in about 1/3 of a cup of pineapple juice there. So they will both really contribute to the sweetness. And now I'm putting in some vinegar. It's rice vinegar in particular, so that's quite specific to Asian cuisine. And I'm putting in about a 1/4 of a cup of that. So we've got sugar, we've got pineapple juice, and we've got vinegar in the saucepan at the moment. Tomato ketchup. This will probably add a little bit of colour as well as flavour. So I think I put in 2 tablespoons of this. So there you go. Ketchup is, yeah, an ingredient that's not often used in Australian cooking, that's for sure. It's more used in American cooking, but it's something that has been used in this adaptation of this recipe. And we're adding a tablespoon of soy sauce again, just to add that kind of typical Asian flavour to the dish. And this is Chinese 5 spice. It's only 1/4 teaspoon, so not a lot, but you'll really find that as you start to cook up the sauce, which I'm doing here, which we're going to simmer for 5 minutes, that you'll be able to really smell that spice and it'll come through in the flavour of the sauce. So we've got the sauce cooking away there. And that, as I said, that will go for about 5 minutes. And we've put that aside now so we can start to fry up our pork, which has been marinating. So at the moment I'm just testing the heat of the oil that I've put in the wok there with a cube of bread. So basically I think it's about 15 to 30 seconds. If your bread has turned a golden colour, that's a good indicator that your oil is hot enough to start frying up your pork or any other meat that you're cooking. And fried meat, is quite common in Chinese cuisine as well. So we are frying up the pork. It's been tossed through some flour, before it got to this step. We're doing it in batches. So it takes about 4 minutes or till it's golden brown. When you'll be able to tell that it's actually ready to be taken out of the fryer. So we're definitely progressing through our recipe here. There's not too many more steps to go. It does take a little while to do this because you do it in batches. As you can see there, it's got a really nice golden brown colour. So our pork has been draining, the oil has been draining off the pork on the paper towel. We've emptied the wok of oil and we're going to use it now to stir fry some veggies that were cut while we were marinating. So the 1 tomato that was chopped into wedges, an onion that was thinly sliced, and 2 shallots that were trimmed into 4cm battens. So they're going to be stir fried together. Not for very long, maybe just 2 minutes till they're a bit tender but they're still a bit crisp. And that technique for stir frying is quite common in Asian cuisine, basically cooking food in a little bit of oil by stirring in a hot wok or fry pan. So here you go, I'm just stirring it up, just getting it kind of mixed through that oil and distributing the heat. We're now going to add in, that fried pork and the sweet and sour sauce, which was thickened with 2 teaspoons of corn flour and 2 tablespoons of water while it was cooking, which wasn't shown. Just going to mix that through now. So we're almost at the end of our cooking time. So this isn't really kind of cooking, it's just kind of warming it up and mixing it through. And I'm about to plate up. So there's no rice in that dish, but that is an ingredient that's grown very commonly in Asia. And this ingredient Asia is known for and would often be added to this dish. I hope you've enjoyed. Thanks.